so much more than a chance to be heroes in our own lifetimes. If we prevail, our triumph will be etched into the hearts and minds of a grateful world for untold generations. I'm talking about glory, gentlemen. True glory.
Call of Duty is a franchise that has been around for a very long time, returning each year trying to improve upon the year before it, but the franchise has become so big and it literally has gone to space and back that it's hard to see where it would go next. Naturally, it returned to its roots and where it all began, back to World War II. Call of Duty World War II is, as the name implies, set in the World War II era with a new graphical engine, updated gameplay, new additions to zombie mode and a promising campaign, but does it deliver on the promise?
You need to select a division, soldier. Watch these division films and figure out your best way to join the cause.
Remember, no digging in at the shore. Gotta advance. You need to stay low and do not bunch up. Stick to your training, you're gonna make it through. I'm proud to lead you fellas into battle. Anytime, anywhere.
The campaign was one of the selling points of this year's Call of Duty, and judging by the promotion, I was particularly excited to jump in. Starting out with the iconic landing on Normandy, you play as Daniels, a US soldier and a member of the 1st Infantry Division. The opening sequence is phenomenal and exhilarating. However, I've experienced this sequence so many times in video games in the past, dating back to the PlayStation 2 era, that I couldn't help but have a "I've seen this before" feeling. Fighting your way through the Western Front, Paris, and crossing the Rhine, you have your tank missions, vehicle and turret sections, slow-mo concussion scenes with over-the-top screaming, and your typical Defend Point X missions. Even though the campaign impressed visually and the character development between Daniels and his teammates is somewhat of a welcome addition, the 6-hour campaign ultimately fell flat with repetitive and predictable sequences. It's an improvement over the recent campaigns in Call of Duty games. However, it's nothing worth replaying, and even on the most difficulty setting, I found it relatively easy. Your health doesn't regenerate over time as with previous titles, but rather you have a health bar where you'd need to find medipacks and you can call one of your squad mates to toss you a medikit, which is a nice touch. It made me feel somewhat mortal and I couldn't just run out guns blazing. Stealth missions was a real treat as there were few and far between. However, they were quickly tossed aside with an all-out firefight, which kinda ruined those stealth missions. One particular mission that stood out was one that didn't involve any shooting at all. You infiltrate a garrison and you are tasked to find a contract, and without spoiling anything, you basically have to speak in a code to various soldiers and memorize certain items, which does add a tense moment. I had hoped there were more of these in the game. With the new and improved engine, the game certainly does look incredible. Playing on a PlayStation 4 Pro, I didn't experience any issues at all. However, PC users are complaining about compatibility troubles, so I'd recommend checking out some of the Steam reviews if you're a PC player. The sound design is superb and on par of the quality from any previous Call of Duty game. Sledgehammer Games did a fantastic job with the motion capture and voice acting despite the campaign being a bit disappointing. Multiplayer is where the real heart of Call of Duty lies, and with World War II it didn't disappoint in that department. As someone who doesn't really play multiplayer games often, I had a blast in World War II. Removing the jetpacks and wall running, it felt great to be within narrow corridors, and you have to be aware of the map and your surroundings as a shotgun blast can come from any location. Perks and weapon mods make a return, and there are a ton of other unlockables through loot boxes or supply crates as they're called. They give you cosmetic items and fall from the sky, literally, and other players can watch you open them, which is kind of weird in a way. Aside from the typical matches found in Call of Duty games, HQ is a new social space where you can run around in third-person mode and do all sorts of activities. It does remind me a bit of Destiny, as you can get daily activities as well as weekly ones, open supply crates, and interact with other players in a 1 vs 1 dueling pit, but it is definitely a nice addition. Additionally, there is also an arcade, a firing range, and an area where you can practice kill streaks. Nazi zombie modes is also back with a much more horrifying look.
Were they found? It's being used to power some kind of experiment.
You have no idea what you're dealing with, do you?
Your mission is to seize that relic. Everything else is on a need-to-know basis.
Is it just me, or does it seem that we're a wee bit late to the party? I didn't sign up for this shite.
None of us did.
It plays much like the previous versions, and some of the later puzzles will require you to really work with a team and think outside the box. It's a fun distraction from the regular multiplayer, and even if you jump in alone, matchmaking is fairly easy and simple. Speaking of matchmaking and online, my biggest issue I had was random disconnection issues, endless loading screens, and often the game would just crash when loading into a match. Many users have complained about this issue, and I'm sure this will be patched out in the future. Call of Duty World War II does feel like a return to its roots, however with a somewhat dull campaign that isn't really memorable, it does drag down the game a bit. Multiplayer is where most of the fun and replay value lies, but I often lost excitement in multiplayer when I was put up against pro players who were leagues above my level, and I just didn't have that much fun in those matches, showing that matchmaking does require some work. Usually I rate games at a buy now, wait for sale, look in the bargain bin, or rather avoid rating, and I would say that Call of Duty World War II is definitely worth buying when you wait for a sale. If you're planning to purchase this purely for the campaign, then I'd recommend waiting for a sale, as there isn't enough to justify the purchase. However, with the new social hub, improved zombie mode, and endless hours of multiplayer, this is one Call of Duty that really piqued my interest. Unfortunately though, due to some technical issues and glitches, there is still some problems with the game. Those players who play Call of Duty on a yearly basis probably already own this title, as I do feel that Call of Duty World War II is an improvement over last year's iteration. I'd like to thank Megarom and Activision for providing me a review code, and if you like this video then give me a thumbs up. If you dislike it then give me a thumbs down, but please tell me why so I can improve my videos. My name is Frank, I'm the RedTieGuy, and frankly, thank you for watching. Catch you guys in the next video.